There's one woman he's never truly forgotten. And you know it's you, not because he told you explicitly. Perhaps he never said it in those exact words, but you know it in a way that precedes the evidence. That quiet, sometimes heavy to bear certainty that something in what he felt didn't follow the trajectory that circumstances should have produced. That despite time, despite distance, despite the new lives built on both sides, something specific hasn't been erased. And you wonder why. Not obsessively. You have your life, you've moved on, or you've tried. But the question is there, quiet and persistent, in the moments when silence gives it space. Why do some connections withstand everything? Why do some men return, sometimes after months, sometimes after years, to someone they thought they'd let go? And why you, specifically? Perhaps he's already come back once. Perhaps he hasn't come back yet. But something in the air suggests it's a possibility neither of you has entirely ruled out. Perhaps you're in contact, but something in the fabric of your exchanges suggests there's still something unresolved, something that hasn't yet reached its final form. Tonight, I'm going to show you something no one has ever explained with this precision about why some men always come back to a particular woman. Not a romantic explanation. A deep, documented psychological truth that will transform how you understand what's happening between you and what you really need to do with that understanding. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human soul the world has ever known, spent decades observing how certain connections become embedded in the male psyche in a way that does not follow the ordinary rules of time and conscious decision. And the central concept he developed to explain exactly this phenomenon is called the anima. This inner feminine figure that lives in the deep psyche of every man, which is the image of what he seeks to complete within himself, and which, when it recognizes itself in a real woman, creates a psychic imprint that nothing external can entirely erase. In a nutshell, the anima is the part of the male psyche that retains the memory of what it has recognized as essential, and this memory does not submit to conscious decisions to leave or forget. You are not simply a woman in his life. You are also a figure in his psyche, and that figure does not age, does not fade, cannot be easily replaced. Jung observed something specific about how the male psyche deals with connections that have affected the anima level. He observed that these connections do not follow the ordinary trajectory of lived experiences. They do not gradually fade with time, do not neatly integrate into the past, do not give way to new experiences in the way that surface connections do. They remain active, not like nostalgic memories that one consults from time to time with a slight melancholy, like ongoing psychic processes, open questions, files that the unconscious has not yet classified as closed. And the unconscious, according to Jung, doesn't classify anything as finished until the resolution it seeks has been found. As long as something hasn't been understood, integrated, completed, the unconscious continues to work. And this work produces an orientation, a movement, however slight, in the direction of what remains unresolved. That's why he's coming back. Not necessarily because he made a deliberate decision, because his subconscious hasn't yet gotten what it needed. But now comes the level of understanding that changes everything. The one you probably didn't have yet. What his anima recognized in you was not just you as an individual. It was something you embody, something your way of being in the world reflected from an undeveloped part of himself. A quality, a way of being, a depth, a freedom, or a truth. Something he did not yet fully possess within himself, but perceived in you. And that recognition produces something particular in her psyche. It creates not only attraction, but also a kind of psychological urgency, a feeling that something important for her own development is tied to that connection. And this urgency doesn't disappear with distance. It lingers. And somewhere deep down, you already knew it. Not articulately, not with words that stood the test of time, but something inside you knew that what he felt for you wasn't ordinary, that it touched something deeper than attraction or affection, that something in your connection with him had a different quality, a quality that neither time nor decisions could entirely erase. Herein lies the paradox at the heart of why he returns, and it is profoundly counterintuitive. A man who returns to a woman does not return for her. He returns for a part of himself that he has not found anywhere else. Just one sentence. And it completely transforms what these returns mean. Jung would explain this paradox in this way. The anima is not a projection onto the real woman of feelings that belong to her. The anima is an inner figure, a psychic image that the masculine psyche has carried within it for a long time, formed by deep influences, unrealized aspirations, and undeveloped parts of himself. And when this inner figure recognizes itself in a real woman, when something in your way of being resonates with something he seeks to become or integrate, the connection takes on a dimension that transcends the ordinary relationship. It becomes a path to himself. That's why he can't truly forget. Not because you're perfect, not because your relationship was frictionless, but because something about your presence in his life showed him something about himself that he hasn't yet found a way to access otherwise. And the return, this movement that occurs after the departure, is not just a return to you. It is a return to something he had begun to glimpse of himself in your mirror. What you showed him about himself, that specific quality, that way of being, that dimension of existence he discovered in your connection, he's been searching for ever since. Sometimes by looking for someone else who could show it to him. Sometimes by trying to develop it on his own. And often, sooner or later, by returning to the original source. This return movement goes through several phases that you can recognize. The first phase is what I call the lasting imprint. This is what happens immediately after you leave, in the weeks and months that follow. Something remains, not just a memory, an active psychic presence. You continue to occupy space in his psyche in ways he doesn't fully control. You appear in his thoughts at unexpected times. You overlay yourself on new situations like a comparison filter he didn't choose to activate. In concrete terms, he meets someone and something tells him it's not the same. He experiences a situation that would have had a different feel with you. He hears or sees something, and the association happens before he has time to process it. This imprint. This way you continue to structure his perception even when you're not there, is the anima refusing to accept erasure. The second phase is what I call substitute research. This is the phase where he tries, consciously or unconsciously, to find elsewhere what you had. Not always deliberately, sometimes simply by continuing to live, to meet people, to create new connections. And in this search, something revealing systematically occurs. Nothing settles in the same way. Something is missing in objective situations that should lack nothing. A slight inadequacy, sometimes barely perceptible, sometimes uncomfortably precise, between what he finds and what he is looking for, without quite knowing that he is still looking. This inadequacy is the anima that rejects substitutes, that continues to measure what is presented against what it had recognized, and that signals, through this slight, persistent dissatisfaction, that something important has not yet been resolved. The third phase is what I call the clarity of absence. This is the most paradoxical phase, the one where distance itself produces a vision that proximity didn't always allow. Far from you, with hindsight, something becomes clearer in his understanding of what you had. Things he may have taken for granted become visible through their absence. Qualities he wouldn't have been able to name in the daily grind of your connection reveal themselves as precise and irreplaceable now that they're gone. And this clarity produces something, a re-evaluation, a question that imposes itself with increasing force. And finally, a movement towards you in one form or another. But here is what Jung would add. And this is the most important part of tonight, the part that concerns you more than him. Everything I've described about her psyche, her anima, the reasons why some men return to certain women, all of it is real and accurate. And now I have to ask you a question that Jung wouldn't have softened. What do you do with those returns when they arrive? Not what you feel. What you feel is understandable, and it's real. But what are you doing? Are you welcoming each piece of feedback from a place of clarity about what you want? Or is there something in the way you receive this feedback saying that you, too, haven't fully resolved something yet? Because if his returns to you are motivated by an unresolved part of himself seeking external resolution, there's a question about you that deserves the same honesty. What does your openness to these returns say about something you carry within you? About what you're seeking in this connection? About what you deserve, not what you accept, but what you truly need to be happy? The connection is real. The imprint it leaves is real. And you, your way of being in the world, what you showed him of himself, this ability you have to activate something essential in others, that ability is something that belongs to you. It doesn't depend on his return to exist. You are not the woman he never forgot because you waited for him to return. You are that woman because something within you touched something essential within him. And that something, that quality, that depth, that way of being that his unconscious recognized, is something you carry within you, regardless of his decisions. The real question tonight isn't whether he'll come back. It's whether you're living life to the fullest, whether you're giving your own life the same depth and quality of presence you gave to this connection. Because the woman you don't forget isn't the one who waits. She's the one who continues to become, with or without him, something that others can't find elsewhere. Be that woman, not for him, for yourself. And if and when it returns, if something real returns, not just the cycle, you will be there, whole, clear, alive in who you are. Ready to receive something real, no longer from a place of waiting, but from a place of presence. It's no coincidence that you're here tonight. And it's no coincidence that something inside you recognizes what I've been telling you from the beginning. You're not someone who's easily forgotten. You never have been. Just tell me one thing in the comments. Is there a man who's coming back, or seems about to come back into your life right now? One word is enough. I read every message. Subscribe if you haven't already. And share this video tonight with a woman who wonders why someone always comes back. Someone who deserves a real answer. Take care of yourself.